Welcome to the Select Board meeting for Monday, February 9th. Call to order at 6:30 p.m. First item of business we're going to do is review of the surplus equipment request for the Police Department K-9. Second read. So, since our last read, I've had some more information and some relative to what you brought up about continuing service, and also just about how we acquired Ziva. So there was a contract with the rescue that we received Ziva from, that they have first right of refusal if we are discontinuing service with the department or with the new handler. So if she is leaving Erving's department. And so Brian spoke with the organization today, and they have no concerns waiving that first right if it's going to retired Officer Gordon, as long as the K-9's going with no restrictions, so that she could work and continue in the K-9 profession and service. And so I also met with retired Officer Gordon today. Brian and I did, and spoke with her some about what you had brought up about continuing in other capacities and still being a service to the community and the surrounding area. Unfortunately, there's not really any organizations where that would work that are, exist in the area to do that outside of law enforcement K-9. So, so kind of maybe hand in hand. But if we were to put that restriction on, the rescue has some first right, before we would do that, and then second, that would limit what you had said you'd hope would continue. And Officer Gordon is here to speak to any further questions or anything and elaborate on any of that better than I just relayed it, but in case there is further questions.
No, just to be clear, I was, last week, I wasn't solely wanting retired Officer Gordon and Ziva to have the option to work for volunteer agencies. I had that in conjunction with another law enforcement agency, any type of first responder agencies. I know of some groups that train in bloodhounds in the area. I didn't know what capacity they operated in terms of search and rescue, but I really, just to make my opinion from last week clear, I think it would be in the best interest of the dog at her age to be released to her human with no restrictions, so that they can continue to serve the community in whatever capacity.
I would second that. It's logical, and Ziva was in excellent hands and will still be in excellent hands. I trust whatever the plan is for her through Officer Gordon, that it's the best for Ziva.
I agree, and I think, excuse me, I agree, and I think continued availability and service to the community and the county, et cetera, would be great. And so I'm sure our best opportunity for that is with Officer Gordon. So we will, well, we don't need to necessarily update the form, but we've talked about changing it from retirement to release, and then we'll strike the, sounds like we're all in agreement about striking the restriction for K-9 in another police department.
Agreed.
Any other discussion on it tonight? Any other changes?
I have none.
I feel somewhat guilty that the Gordons came all the way down here and I don't have any questions for them, but I hope you'll forgive me. And Bill, did you say something came out of my mouth that sounded logical?
Well, it was logical.
What a night.
We might have to edit that tape. I appreciate you coming out. And we will carry it for a third read at probably the next meeting. And then I don't expect any further discussion at that point. We would put paperwork together and wrap that up.
Good.
Thank you. All right. Thanks. All right. Do you guys want to jump to IT, or you want to do something different?
Can certainly.
Stick with the agenda.
Okay. Discussion regarding information technology department staffing. I will recuse at 6:36. Let you gentlemen take the helm. Okay. So in continuing our discussion on the growth of our reliance on technology and the human staffing required to support that. You see, we have a document that was submitted to us this evening that sort of lays out what that growth has looked like in the last 13 years. Jake, I'll invite you to speak on it, as I believe you're the author. I am, sure. So just kind of giving some landscape on kind of what was the technology footprint back then when this position was created. And I think, as you guys have noted, it hasn't been looked at or changed or modified since, but the IT landscape over those 13 years has evolved significantly. And so just some of the areas and ways to quantify how things have developed. And I won't read every line, but if there's any of these you have specific questions about or want to understand better, like where we were or where we went, glad to expand on that. But across the hardware, we moved from physical servers on site to cloud services across the board, various different amounts of investment and time and work and effort. And we did have a third party for one of those moves that assisted. Our computers have moved from mostly desktops to mostly laptops now. More mobile support, obviously, and about 4 times as many devices as we had then. Mobile phones, tablets, MiFis, things like that, at least tripled. Back then, IT wasn't involved, and we had disparate accounts. Now they're all under a single business account, managed. The devices are managed. Firewalls, we only had one that wasn't like a Comcast, issued device. We now have all our own third-party enterprise-grade firewalls in every building. The network equipment needed to support that's all managed as well. And the wireless footprint, again, outside of literally one AP in one building back then, everything was just the Comcast equipment too. Now, some of that's not fully deployed yet on the wireless side, but the full footprint will be somewhere near 50 access points and various separated secure networks and guest networks, et cetera, that are available. Copiers, printers have evolved those to more copiers and no inkjet and less printers. The phone system, we had a couple systems. We've upgraded them once and then moved to a VoIP system that is town-wide, single system. Anything on hardware before I continue? Questions?
Nope.
I'll just note for the 10,000 people watching from home that some of the growth in terms of hardware in 13 years, we've gone from approximately 20 computers to up to 85 to support our staff. Wireless systems, as Jake mentioned, from 1 to 49. Those are just the access points, or yeah?
Yeah.
Email, I can speak to this. We've matured quite a bit, I know.
Yeah, I didn't get to the
We
software
went
yet.
from a free service provided by Comcast, which was my first air quote town email, up to very mature system where everybody has an appropriate credentialed sign-on, and
And I think, a lot of things about that, when you get the software changes, the email one, a couple migrations, we did a few iterations to get to where we are. But we have, the tools to assist with public record requests, e-discovery type situations, and ensure that we're, compliant with retention and archiving of all of our communications to support that. So that was a big change, and I think, while it's never easy sometimes, depending on the scope, it makes it a bit easier for sure, and ensures that we are compliant. And then across, the various software throughout the town, the accounting software has changed over twice in the time. And the user count has, gone from a couple people to almost 30 now who have access to view through budget season, et cetera, with our boards and committees and staff. Access to Adobe to edit PDFs. It's grown from a few standalone licenses to, over 30 across the team. Microsoft Office, same thing. A lot of these things were bought with a computer and they kind of lived and died license-wise with the computer. Now we have, subscription licenses, the latest secure updates, version compatibility, et cetera, from about 15 to, nearly 70 licenses now. Antivirus and malware, prevention detection software went from, having it for about 15 computers probably back then to approximately the 85 that we have now. They're all devices that it's appropriate for are covered by it. And we've migrated platforms on one vendor and then changed vendors more recently, rolled out EDR, endpoint detection and response, and then have expanded that to XDR, extended, which broadens beyond just looking at endpoints, but across the whole software stack and cloud services as much as we can to try to ensure that we're securing and preventing, cyber intrusions and detecting them if they do occur before they get to something worse. More on the IT side, remote support tools, service ticketing systems, network management to centrally manage those now, 66 network assets from a single pane of glass. And understand if we're having an outage somewhere or multiple locations with our internet, for example, if we have various different, sustained intrusion attempts, all kinds of different tools that are within that platform allow us to look at that, monitor that, and also make configuration changes as needed on the fly across the whole organization. Security systems, we talked about some of that. I won't expand on it a lot here, but went from more basic, we're moving to more advanced systems, and that's an ongoing process and project to do that. Endpoint management and SMS archiving, again, more back-end and IT-related things, allows us to manage both the mobile devices and the computer footprint remotely from anywhere, ensure software versions are up to date, patch management, also allows for recovery or wiping of devices if they're lost or stolen, all those sort of things that come with those tools. And it also allows application management, so MDM and MAM in the industry is what they're usually referred to. And the SMS archiving is like the email archiving. It allows us to ensure that all our text communications are being backed up and archived and e-discoverable in the same system. That was probably our most recent kind of record retention cloud upgrade. And then across our various different departments, the capital planning software that we're really just starting to use this year, that we put in last year. So, same as our accounting software, it's about the same footprint of users. The website's gone through a couple migrations. Now we have multiple subsites. Our public licensing for businesses, for dogs, et cetera, we migrated from just maintaining them like in Excel, et cetera, to a system. We've outgrown that system and have it in progress to move to a cloud system that's integrated with some of our other suite of tools. Water system, a standalone, somewhat manual process, single user, computer, et cetera. That's moving to a cloud system. that is planned, and we expect that to roll out in the latter half of FY '26 here. Assessing software has gone through 2 migrations. One was an upgrade, and then the second one was moving to the cloud and supporting more users. Our tax and utility software has pretty much stayed the same, but it has integrations with the other suites for different functionality with water, with accounting, etc. Password management tools instead of sticky notes and various handwritten lists and such. We've moved to a cloud, secure cloud system that is encrypted, makes it more versatile, easier to store them, manage them, etc. for our critical users. And our WatchGuard system in our police department. So it went from some cruiser cams on a local server, an upgrade there, and then to where we are now with body cams, multiple cameras in the cruisers, all cloud storage, uploaded, accessible, and integrated with our other systems from sign-on security, etc. Jumps down from there to just kind of a couple other things that we've been done. We moved from coax internet at most sites with Comcast at various speeds. Some were a little faster than they are now, slower, but only for download, to fiber at every location. Most locations, they at least have same upload and download speed, supporting things like this being streamed. Some sites have a bit faster because of the workload involved, and it's very dynamic. We can upgrade the speeds within a very short period of time should we need it across any site.
Jake, just a question on the fiber.
Yes.
Are we 100% fiber or in the town, or 50%, 80%? Or?
Every town building's been moved over to fiber.
Okay.
Yep. And I believe we've fully discontinued the coax now on all sites
Okay.
for internet. We have a couple of the VoIP systems are still using the coax for the voice because they have to do a fiber cutover, so those have to be scheduled to finish up, and that moves everything over to the fiber.
Just for clarification, when you're saying it's dynamic and can upgrade, make things faster as needed, speed equals money, so we have them set appropriately is what I take away from that.
Correct. They're not probably as fast as you have at home, but for the business workloads, it varies by site, but most of them are appropriate. And if users are having issues with it being too slow, I hope they would let us know. And but we've set them accordingly. They're set much lower than you probably get in your Comcast at home, but it serves the business purpose very well. And some sites have more upload and streaming, such as video. Those sites have more bandwidth for that purpose. So yeah, it's priced, cost prohibitive to move it up everywhere. We move it up as it makes sense. Because yes, it is more expensive. More reliability, more guaranteed speed, but it costs more money, so. Balance.
Mm-hmm.
At least we believe, and I say we meaning Brian and I have gone through these iterations of this, that we have them dialed to where they need to be.
Generally, what is the cost for upgrading the fiber? Is it?
Without pulling up a bill right now, I believe we pay about $475 a month per site,
Okay.
and most sites are, I believe, at 10 or 20 up and down, and that's
Okay.
it. We have, I believe, one site at 100 up, 100 down, and
Yeah.
that one I want to say is 500 or 600. So,
Okay.
It may be, depending on if you want to go from 20 to 30 or 40 or 50, we might be adding $20 to $50 a month,
Yeah.
but it scales as you go up.
Okay.
We can do gig, but I think that's probably 4,000 or 5,000 a month, depending. 3.
What was
So
that?
it's a gig 1,000 up and down.
Oh,
It's
okay.
probably closer to 1,000, a couple $1,000s a month. So it gets expensive fast
Wow.
on a monthly basis per site.
Wow.
So
I'm,
you probably know.
I'm familiar with those costs, yes.
yep. So we try to keep it reasonable. It's much more reliable than coax, and
Yeah.
so that's very worth it. But
Yeah.
we also try to keep the cost down because it it scales really fast. Across multiple sites, it just adds up.
So,
Last couple was just CGIS, wasn't involvement in CGIS security back then in 2013. I have been for a couple of years, handful of years now, CGIS certified level 4 for IT, and continue to keep that up and support, implementation of appropriate security controls that are dictated by the federal CGIS policies. So that's a big piece that, has been ongoing. And single sign-on, if you're not familiar, just makes it a lot simpler to sign into things. You probably experience it when you open your email or you open Adobe or something else. You are being signed in, and your credentials are giving you licensing and access to Office, to all those tools, with one login and one set of credentials. A lot easier for the users, a lot more seamless experience. Definitely some initial background work to get there, and then ongoing upkeep to keep it current and working. So
no more sticky notes on the back of the device.
no. And it allows more multi-factor. I didn't put that in here, but like multi-factor authentication, which we've implemented for our critical staff to ensure that they're less likely to be susceptible to a cyber attack, or less at risk, hopefully. And being able to implement that with single sign-on means we can give them one set of multi-factor credentials, and while it gets them everywhere, it's a more secure set, instead of having a list of passwords where it's 123, 124, 125, 12. Every 6 months or 30 days when you have to change them. And the last thing on there is just a list of kind of the help desk tickets that did get entered in the last calendar year, and some of the categories that they fell under. Don't look at the average days to close. It's not necessarily always accurate, and it's obviously not where I'd like it to be. Adoption of it has slowly been growing, as well as, taking the time to make sure that I'm entering ones that have not been. So that's where that comes from. So some data points is definitely not a full snapshot of what we're doing in IT.
Educating end users.
Yep.
So, I'm looking at the time, and we're at a nice quantifiable walk through history. Just touching on now a bit of a crystal ball, where this might go. 13 years is forever. How about 3 to 5? Growth, anticipated needs,
Very good question.
where the risks and those threats are going to be coming from.
I think the threat footprint continues to grow. AI is, likely a tool that everybody will use, like or not, to some level. Some more than others, but it will empower and has empowered, people bad actors to continue to get better at trying to get into systems too. So I think, cybersecurity, it's always going to be a bit of cat and mouse chasing, one side or the other. So that's going to continue to always be a front that's evolving and needs attention. Across everything you see here, what I have seen a pattern of, and I think will continue, is more and more deployment of systems. We have cemetery software on the docket. We have, more and more interest in systems and programs that support our departments, even those that may not have seemed to be highly technical or highly tech engaged in the past. And through that, the more that we can employ single sign-on and ensure broad access from anyone, anywhere, at any time, makes it more accessible. And with that comes more focus on the security side, ensuring that we are still keeping it secure through that. I think devices, we're seeing more and more of that as well, as more boards and committees are having devices, et cetera. So I think the device footprint will continue to grow slowly. It's not super fast. And, I think those are some of the key areas. I think there's a variety of back-end updates and good practices that still need to be implemented. They're on a docket. They're either partially done or not started. So I think that's a place that more attention needs to be given. because a lot of it ends up being end user focused, right? Reactive, rather than spending as much time on proactive or balancing the two.
Okay. So I know we've talked a little about the size and scope and needs before, but I was just, without holding you to anything, even though it's public record, of course. Would you see, with the passes we've made at, job descriptions and whatnot, that keeping budget in mind, one FTE will serve what we need, or? I know, it's a tough question. I put you on the spot.
No,
but-
and that's all right. I understand the question. I understand the need to answer it. I would say I think it is a huge step forward from where we are. And I think it is a path. Is that the end result at 3 to 5 years? I'm not sure about that. Will that really serve need? And I think needs definition. Try to not use need twice. More definition on what is the vision of the select board, townwide, the requirements for IT. Both how much focus on back end, how much front end, how much growth are we committing to supporting every year? And that definition would better inform, is one appropriate? Is it more? We can leverage outsourcing where appropriate as well to bridge gaps if needed. We've used support before on projects, so there's different ways to get at it. I think that's a good step forward. But yeah, I wouldn't commit to it's the solution for 3 to 5 years. Is it a solution for a year or so? I think it's a great step forward, and then we can better evaluate where we are.
And the purpose of the question is, as we start to build up these job descriptions and policies and everything behind them that are going to be required, my thought was, do we need to widen the scope, or can we really try and, will this be a good first step if we go towards one jack of all trades admin like we've mentioned in previous discussions? So
I think the challenge that I think you may have in that is the scope of everything on this list. It's not very common that IT professionals have all of it. They'll have a piece of it, maybe 25 to 50% of that list. It's not a lot of people, and those that do have a broader breadth, unfortunately, have a price tag that goes with it. So it may be challenging to fulfill that with a single FTE from a skill set standpoint.
An affordable unicorn. So is there anything, I just want to be respectful of everybody else's time, and I know we have a joint coming up.
I just had a question for Brian.
Yes, sir.
We made some changes to through discussion, through the job description itself, and specialty areas. We made some comments, and can we have a copy for our next meeting?
Absolutely.
Of those updates to the job description?
Absolutely.
And professional training?
Absolutely.
So we can move forward with that.
Absolutely.
Would be helpful.
I'll put it on my to-do list.
Thank you.
I'll provide updates relative to kind of comments and thoughts based on kind of the footprint and how it matches up with that too for that meeting.
Okay.
Did you have something for tonight too, Brian, or not tonight?
I was going to start to craft action items for a position description or potential aspects of it, but
Got it.
you answered that that's what you're looking for, so I will do that.
Okay. Anything else before we move on?
Unless you have anything for me.
I appreciate the insight. Like I said, history is great. Quantifying it is even better. So thank you.
AI forecasting maybe, but not me.
Yeah, All right, well, I invite you to rejoin so we can carry on.
is 7 p.m., so I will rejoin and call the joint meeting with the Finance Committee and the Capital Planning Committee to order. Come on up. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
As they're getting situated, is it possible to just deal with the third reading on the truck while Glenn's here?
Sure. Do you all mind if we just handle one more piece before we get started on the joint? All right. Review of surplus equipment request, Highway Department, F-350 truck, third reading.
I have no concerns.
Can we ask you a quick question? Obviously, this was proposed as a bid that we would make available through public auction, and we can certainly do that. There's the potential that one of our partners at the Solid Waste District may be interested in considering making you an offer on the truck. Are you okay with us exploring that and bringing that to you before we bring it to public auction?
That would work for me.
Okay.
I have no objections. If they have a use for it and we can be good neighbors, sure.
Same.
They,
So we'll-
they clearly understand the condition, right?
Yes,
Very, very clear.
very clear.
Okay.
But they still want to come take a look at it, be sometime this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once that's been done, and if they, want to make an offer, once we have that,
Mhm.
and, you guys are at a place to bring it back to us, go ahead,
Okay.
just to look at that, and
Okay.
make a final decision if we're going to release it to that or continue with the bid process.
Got it.
And if they're not interested, let us know, and then we'll
Absolutely.
be good to go.
We should have an update for next week.
Okay.
Excellent.
Other questions?
Nope.
All right,
Thank you.
so we'll
Thank you.
carry it for a future meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good night.
Two. Okay. Review of FY27 operating budget and capital budget requests for elementary education is first. Come on up.
Yep, it will go there. There's an HDMI cable that's right by the camera.
Hello.
Hello. We'll give you a moment to get set up there.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing us to come on in. For those who I haven't met, I'm Superintendent Shannon Cleveland, and I'm very happy to have Principal Gannon, who is no longer an interim, here, and have invited her to come on up and be a part of presenting the budget, because she's really the boots on the ground, and our Director of Finance, Caitlin Anderson-May. So we're going to present the budget. It's got a couple of different pieces. We're going to outline the Erving Union 28 budget, the Erving portion of that, and that big picture. A preliminary budget for the elementary school and secondary. A cost summary of what are our big driving factors. And then we will also take a look at the capital requests. And so with that said, I'll let Caitlin start going into the presentation, and I think if you have questions, I'm happy with whatever format is comfortable for you. If you want to be like, hey, time out on that, and ask questions as we go, or you can hold them to the end, whatever format works.
So we started the Erving School Union 28 budgeting process back in late August. The budget was voted by the Joint Supervisory Committee on January 12th. It has an overall increase of 5.5%. For Erving, because of a slightly less enrollment, was a 4.19% increase for their portion. Notable increases, the educational leadership improvement dues went up. Those dues have just increased over the years, and that line needed to increase. The director of curriculum and instruction salary, the contract went up. Computer services, we're switching computer services. That is pretty well needed, especially with the cybersecurity threats. And disability insurance went up, but I mean, I had a metric for where I would put things down, whether it was a % increase or a dollar amount increase. It's for disability insurance, 18.8%, which seems remarkable, but it was $150. School board liability insurance, central office rent, and all other increases were for steps and COLA for salaries ranging from 2 to 6.6% in the salary lines. Here's a breakdown so we work on a 5-year rolling average of enrollment for Union 28. So for Erving, we cover the preschool students, which each count as a 0.5 student, although we love them the same. 98 K through 6, 2 out-of-district placements, and then we also have to factor in the secondary students. So that gets put in as a 0.1 student just because of the small amount of work at the administrative level for the any out-of-district placements, because we are programmatically responsible for those students, and then also fiscally responsible to create the budget and have the tuition rate. So here's the Erving Elementary draft school budget summary. Overall is a 1.54% increase. And I'm going to go through each of these subcategories in the next couple slides. For administration, over 84% of the administration portion of the budget are U28 lines. Some of the increases in administrative expenses include school committee contracted services. So being a single municipal district, we have to go through an end of year report audit every 3 years. Instead of budgeting that amount, which is about $6,000, instead of budgeting it every year, we've opted to not have it budgeted for a year we don't need it. Well, we're going to need it next year. We had our 2 without, so we'll have to have our FY26 audit done, and so that's where you see that increase. And then the U28 educational leadership improvement dues, the portion did go up by $280. So for total increase in administration is $9,693. Instruction, this is the majority of our budget is in instruction. It's all of our teacher salaries, service providers, supplies, instructional supplies. So the Erving School Committee and Erving Education Association ratified the fiscal year 2026 to 2028 agreement over last summer. The cost of living increase for FY27 is 3.5%. The budget includes projected changes to salaries, positions, and use of grants, with one reduction of an unfilled paraprofessional position. Other non-salary and position changes are as follows. Summer tutor programs, $12,000 in funding moved to experiential learning. That's where we provide learning experiences for students over the summer, but it doesn't really fall under a summer tutor program. That's more for special education services. Substitute salary, we've reduced it by $9,100 to reflect the use of fewer outside substitutes. And instructional supplies, we increased by $1,000 because we're anticipating the loss of Title IIA and Title IV funding. So we'd like to increase that line a little bit to cover some of the things that would have been covered during those title grants. Other school services, health supplies, we've increased a little bit to reflect the increase in supply prices. Experiential learning, that's where that $12,000 was moved into from the summer tutor programs into experiential learning, where it fits more appropriately. And special education transportation, we no longer have any need for that at the elementary level. So that subcategory did go down by 1.53%. Plant operations maintenance, largest changes to the plants and operations budget lines are around reductions and reallocations and what we're using our rural aid money for. For this year, we're using it for fuel and school power. We're moving it over to some of the salary lines instead. So it's not really an increase to those lines, just a change in the way that we're using some of our grants. Fixed charges and improvement fixed assets. So we had a reduction in equipment lease. We had a big kind of
Storage supply item.
yes, that was cleaned out and now was given back, so we were able to reduce that line. And programs with other school summary. The special education tuition with other schools, we've had a shift in the population. Students have moved on, and so we were able to reduce some of the tuition lines, actually all of the tuition and transportation line, but you'll see it later in the secondary budget. Our grants. So for circuit breaker, we plan on using $160,000 in circuit breaker money, and most of that will be for, or all of that will be for out-of-district tuition and transportation at the secondary level. Title I, we budgeted for FY25. We did not budget for FY26 because we were put in a warning category that our population may not we might not be able to receive it, but now that we did receive it and we have not received that notification, we feel comfortable budgeting $15,000 towards professional salary for in the teacher specialist regular education line, our reading specialist. Title II, Title IV, we're not anticipating anything. So those are zeroed out, and we added of the $13,000 we budgeted last year, we're putting $1,000 into the operating budget to cover some of the professional development. IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, we would like to use it instead of the out-of-district tuition for elementary, use it to the secondary because we had a student move on from elementary to secondary. Rural aid decreased this year. So we'd like to decrease our dependence on rural aid from $35,900 to $20,000 and move it, instead of covering fuel, school power, and substitutes, use it to cover part of the adjustment counselor salary. The Bright program, that funding has run out, so there was some money towards $12,000 towards the adjustment counselor. That's been moved into the operating budget. And for REAP, the Rural Education Achievement Program, we would like to continue to use it towards our MLL teacher. So overall, increasing total grant spending from $257,501 to $260,000. Not in the operating budget, these are our revolving funds, but we have two programs through the STARS program, which is accepts students from out of district and provides a public education out of district placement for them. We are anticipating $55,000, and we would like to use it towards summer programming, paraprofessional, or BCBA, and supplies. And our early childhood revolving, our preschool program, adjusting it from $21,000 to $23,000 for this upcoming year. And then we're also projected to receive $38,000 in school choice receiving tuition. This is the first year that Erving has been a school of choice. And we would like to, at least for the first year, receiving it, build that revolving fund up before we make plans to start using that funding to support the students that are coming in from other schools. The secondary budget. There were no changes in administration. Instruction and reduction in special education instructional materials. These are lines that are small but rarely get used. Reduction in contracted services, and other school services, an increase in secondary transportation because we do budget for those students through Cosmescus to attend Gilmontague. And increase in special education transportation, and additional $20,000 will be funded by circuit breaker towards special education transportation. The programs with their schools, this is the vast majority of our budget, is programs with their schools. And we've seen a lot of changes from this current year to what we're projecting for next year. The regular tuition to public schools, a reduction of $85,823. We had, when we received the invoice from Gilmontague, they list out how many regular education, how many special education students, and that has shifted a little bit from last year to this year. So we are just using those numbers, anticipated sixth graders that will attend Gil Montague next year. And so we believe we can reduce the regular tuition, but the special education tuition to public schools is increasing dramatically. We've had a change of placement, a move-in, and someone graduating out. This is the line with the biggest changes, amount of changes. Special education tuition, non-public schools, we don't have any right now. So any special education student that is out of district placed is actually at a public out of district placement. So the increase to programs to other schools is a 5% increase, and the total increase to Erving secondary budget is a 4.8% increase. And on to our capital requests. We have 4. The HVAC roof replacement. This has been a project for a couple years now that we've been working on. We applied for support with this project through the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, last spring, and representatives from the MSBA visited the school over the summer, and we were selected to move forward to the next level of the accelerated repair program. The HVAC system is at the end of its life, the roof is leaking in many places, and these leaks could do major damage to the gym floor and new carpeting throughout the building if not carefully managed. And by carefully managed, I mean buckets. We're using buckets. Sure, do you want to go?
The morning of the visit by the MSBA coincided with rain the night before, which may have been the only night that it rained all summer.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
There was a little bit over 1.5 inches of standing water in one of the classrooms where the water had come in through the ceiling. It was ceiling tile, all decrepit on the floor as well, because they were still in the process of cleaning it up when they showed up.
So the funding for this will secure that there is a plan to replace the HVAC system and roof in conjunction with our MSBA application. And it is a $2 million request. The second one is a playground replacement. The playground is in need of replacement. It is aged out of its life years, and it's becoming kind of increasingly less safe for our students. And the fix, we can't do the fixes it would take to be able to keep it safe for everyone. It's not just a resource for the school and for recess, but it's also a place where families can come, after school and during weekends. I drive by the school all the time and I see cars here, when school's out, where it gives families a place to go. If we're able to get funding for FY27, it could likely happen in conjunction with the Zielinski Park playground, and those 2 projects might be able to build some buying power if they're happening in the same year. The sidewalk replacement. The sidewalks they've been requiring patchwork maintenance that has only held off inedible replacement. They're a safety hazard and they're not compliant with ADA regulations. They will require a full replacement in the next year or so. The school would like to dovetail this project during the timeline of the HVAC roof replacement, so the building isn't inaccessible during only one period of time. So if we have the HVAC roof and they're able to do the sidewalks then we're not shutting down the building during one time frame and then separately during another time frame. It would all happen together. So if we can secure the funding for FY27, we'd be prepared to meet any timeline of the other project, but it likely probably won't happen before FY28, just based on the HVAC roof project. And finally, our tractor. So a tractor we have at the school is overdue for replacement.
That is not it.
No, that's the new one. That's the one I got off the internet. That's the one we'd like to get. And it's essential for clearing snow and maintaining the grounds. Our quote came back just under $60,000 for a new tractor.
Before we take some questions, a couple things I would like to highlight, and I appreciate the work Beth and Caitlin have given. The budget for the elementary, the overall budget is a 1.54. given our biggest line item is instruction, and there was a 3.5 negotiated COLA. And so I think that really speaks to the work that Principal Gannon and Caitlin and myself have done about looking at every line item. And, you know, does this really reflect where we need money? Are we spending this historically? It's been 3 years of an interim principal at Erving Elementary, and so ownership of the budget is never the same for an interim. And Beth has been, you know, really reflective about looking at past spending. Now she's really in it, consulting with Caitlin. And although there is an increase, there was a lot of, I want to say Jenga is probably not the technical word, but there was a lot of time spent on each line item. And I think that's reflective in that the overall budget increase is a 1.54, given that the biggest part of our budget had a 3.5 increase. And so I want to point that out. We also have had some enrollment increases. We've had 15 students that have enrolled, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a 15% increase. And so when budgeting for that, I mean, that's a sign of good things happening in the community and growth in the community, but that also is factored in. So I just want to highlight the good stewardship that has happened around the budget. There has been some meticulous conversation over, you know, 500 here, 2,000 there, and there was a lot of work that reflects being able to bring a budget that we think is closer to what is really reflective of the needs of that building, and being mindful of that. And I know I saw Glenn leave, but there's been a lot of collaboration when we look at some of these capital projects, with Glenn being a good resource for us, an advocate, helping us with timelines and helping us, you know, reach out to different vendors and get quotes, because sometimes they're not as responsive as you'd like, and he's been really helpful. And I think that is a reflection of, when I came in here a year ago, I was hearing about, you got to build relationships, and have some transparency and some conversations with the community and make those partnerships. And I would love to take credit for that myself, but I think the best thing I did is that I brought Beth in. And I think that she has worked really hard to forge those relationships. And so, you know, I want to, you know, toot her horn a little bit here to the work that's been done. And now we'll take your questions.
So, just going back to earlier part of your conversation, you mentioned being able to reduce a FTE sub by better personnel management, or how are you handling the absences?
So we had we have paraprofessionals within the building, and through management of their day, we are using them to make coverage for our classrooms. So we are still using some substitutes, but the reality is that more of our substitution is being done by our paraprofessionals. It's better for our children, because those are the people who are already in the classrooms. They understand what our expectations are. Certainly they understand what my expectations are regarding quality, and they are working with the teachers more frequently, and so they know how to proceed. We had a teacher out on Friday, and the paraprofessional fluidly was able to proceed with the next series of both ELA and math lessons, because that person is in the room every day. And so the kids didn't miss time on learning, because someone who's coming in wouldn't necessarily know that.
I appreciate that, thank you.
I have questions regarding capital.
Well, go ahead. We
Okay.
can go back to budget after. That's fine.
A couple of things with capital. I think it would be helpful if the capital planning committee could meet with you all. I'd kind of like to understand what happened. Requests were late, and they are lacking in documentation. And so for any other group, we would kick these back to you and tell you that they are not requests that we will look at until that information is provided. I believe we have a meeting Thursday night. I'm not sure. I'm looking at you to nod that it's been posted, I guess. which I know is really short notice if anyone could attend. For me, as a capital planning committee member, it's over $2 million in requests that are coming in halfway through our process. And I don't feel like there has been communication. And so I think it would be great if we could get together at some point and meet and discuss what happened, where that breakdown happened, and why they're coming in the way they're coming in. In the meantime, if you have documentation to support, as an example for the tractor, we typically, we ask for at least one estimate. Other departments have supplied pictures of exactly what they're getting, so we as the committee have a very clear understanding of exactly what those requests are. When we see a $110,000 sidewalk request and we don't see any supporting documentation, that doesn't really tell us what's happening. So if you guys have that documentation that you can get to us quickly, that would be fantastic. On Thursday night, we would be going over the requests again, as all the town requests that we've received. And at some point, I do think the two groups getting together to have a conversation, because I feel like there's some kinks we could work out.
I know Shannon and I have a district school committee meeting elsewhere on Thursday night. What time is the capital planning meeting?
6:30.
We post for 6:30 or
6:30.
okay. So we
Is-
meet at 6:30.
So our meeting is remote. We could, if we could, I don't want to be like, can we be first on the agenda? But we have to be in another meeting at 7, so
Yeah.
I think we could make that work. We'll just maybe be taking our meeting remotely somewhere else, but I
Is
think
your
we-
meeting held?
Town hall.
Town hall.
Yeah,
Okay.
basement of town hall.
Okay. We'll work out the logistics around that.
Okay, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I just, in terms of the cost of the roof, I want to be clear with the 10,000 people watching and everybody in the room. We don't have an opinion of probable cost right now. That's a placeholder number. You won't have that for everybody who's on the building projects until we have the design schematic, which is what we're going to town meeting to finalize. So this is just, my understanding is to put a placeholder, knowing that there will be a refined number that will come to you all, that will come to the voters to consider, is this the project you want to bring forward? So that number needs further refinement, but it was meant to be a placeholder.
Absolutely, and that is the one that I completely understand, having served on building committees. I totally know that is your absolute best estimate of the project, so that is the one I take no
Okay.
issue with, I get
Okay.
that.
Back to secondary, a couple things. The budget is not submitted in our format, so for some reason the numbers are significantly different than what's in our system. Because we have 844 for secondary and FY25 actuals, but you have $1,030,000. Either way, it's a really significant difference, and we didn't reduce it that much coming into this fiscal year, and so I'm a little surprised there's an increase for next year. So kind of what is driving that, since we had such a excess in the prior year?
Sure. So we had a student that graduated from elementary into secondary, and then we've had a move-in recently, very recently, and then we've had another one, they came up also. So we've had 3 out-of-district changes to the secondary budget.
Involving special education, which is excessive costs.
One of them is the special ed transportation line 12 in your secondary. It's basically not been spent at all in the last few years, barely. And it looks like we reduced it a little for this year, but then it's going back up for next year. Is that, just being that we're talking about a $2,000 spend on a $90,000 account for 2 years running, is that really necessary to go up, not down more?
Yes. So when we look at every student, their projected transportation for next year, that line and the out-of-district tuition to public schools, those two have been hit hardest.
And we do know we have some students, right? We have the van here, and we have some students that are going to be matriculating up, and so that won't be an option for next year.
The van will still be used at the secondary level.
No,
Right.
elementary level.
Elementary.
It's only elementary?
Yeah, the van is only used for elementary, and I will continue to need it. That's why the elementary transportation line is almost non-existent.
We don't have anything budgeted.
Right, because we don't need it. We're using the town van to move elementary children to the out-of-district placements, as well as to our own building.
And we can't utilize it for secondary because the schedules don't align. So we have room, but the schedules don't always align.
Understood. So the new incoming are expected to use that because we
Right.
didn't use it for a couple of years,
Right.
right? So that's
Right.
where I'm coming from.
And that's the tricky part, that the costs sometimes are tied to particular
Understood.
students, right? And if there are changes for whatever reason in resident, that changes, and it's not always something we can see in advance or can control, unfortunately.
I have looked at the secondary budget for this year. We are, with our tuition and our anticipated tuition and transportation, and our kind of expected amounts, we have about $27,000 left in the secondary budget that is unspent. So it was reduced, and I believe it was reduced by an amount that actually came out to be pretty realistic to what we ended up needed, given that our projections from Gil Montague, we don't know the tuition rate until we're in the year we budgeted for. But we're now at the point with the secondary budget that we are hitting the mark for the students and for the rates that we have.
I have a couple of questions related to student population. What is the current student population of the Erving Elementary?
As of this morning, we are at 115, but we had a new family that showed up, and so that will be going up again as well.
And if we were in a perfect world, how many students are we looking to, how many students can the Erving Elementary School take on?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. Capacity-wise, the building is built for, I think, 320 students. Capacity-wise, right, we're one classroom. So I think when we look at, I'm assuming that you're talking about school choice, we're trying to be mindful of the grades we accept school choice. We'd like to create a cohort. For example, we've been very open in school committee meetings about, there are a lot of second grade, 2-year-olds in Erving, and there's hardly any 5-year-olds or 4-year-olds turning 5. And so we're certainly looking to have an incoming kindergarten class with 3 students. That's not a good experience. So there might be openings at kindergarten, there might be 10 school choice openings. But we want to be mindful of, right, it's a small school, and that's part of why people move to Erving. It's part of why they come, we're not looking to use school choice to necessarily increase our budget. We're looking to add school choice so that we can create a better experience for the students who are in our schools. So if we have a class that has 16 students, there might not be school choice openings in that particular grade level. And so that would be something when the school committee votes, Beth gives, these are the grades I think we can accept school choice because it enhances our experience, what we're providing for our students. But we're not looking at it to supplement our budget, if that clarifies that a little bit.
No, it does.
Good.
I wasn't looking to clarify your budget. I was just trying to get an understanding of at what point would you not be able to give 100% education to every student, which is, I assume, is a goal.
That's the
mandate. Right.
I think that it's a balance of, given the current staff and given the facilities, we're in a really good spot, that I feel like we have students and I welcome any of you to come on over and visit. Students get a lot of individualized attention. All the things you want in a small rural school are happening. School choice, we did try to bring in some other students to try to make that cohort experience. It's hard if you have a really small class of like 8 students and you're going to go from kindergarten all the way to 6th grade. That does, you want a bigger cohort than that. So I think there is room, but I think we have the staffing right now and the facility that we're able to meet all those needs. I don't have any concerns about that.
And what is the current ratio to students, Erving students to outside students?
So we have, as of next week, we will have 11 school choice students of our, and at that point we would be at 116. We have a new student who's starting. So I think it's just shy of about 1/10 of the building. And it's been targeted. So there are some grades that didn't get any new students. There are some grades that we used it to really make sure that we had a healthier number of children than we would have necessarily had previously. And it's certainly something, that we're, as Superintendent said, we're excited about the rising 3-year-olds who are turning 3 before next fall. We're certainly excited that there are quite a few people who'll be turning 2 in town. We are clear on the matter that the 3 or 4 children townwide who happen to be turning 5 next fall is the wrong number. We need extras. They have to have more friends than just themselves and 4 other people. We want to have a couple extra people to talk to. So we're really going to push to try to find other children to bring in so that kids will have a more authentic experience. We'd like to target a minimum of about 15 in that incoming kindergarten class for next fall. And so we're going to be looking to really heavily advocate to foster that classroom up a little bit.
Thank you.
Sure. We do spend a lot of time looking at what are those trends so that, right, those drive all our decisions, right? They drive what do we need for future budget planning. And so that's how we know, like, we got a really big class of 2-year-olds, like be the biggest class there if they all stay. So that's exciting, but trying, that's just part of the long range planning that's going on.
Thank you.
Back on elementary, I think it's line 35. Of course, trying to look at year-old actuals, I understand that's not maybe what the landscape is now, but it was like close to 300, just about 300,000 budgeted, and we only spent about 200 in 25. And we had a higher budget for this year. Looks like a slight reduction back to 300 for next year. Are we expecting that $100,000 difference is actually getting spent or needed in the next, current year, next year?
Sorry, you said line 35?
Correct.
Yes, so salaries for special.
That's just COLA.
Yeah, that would be.
Because at least with the data here, I believe I'm looking at 292 for 25, and then we only spent 201. So it looks
Jacob,
like
I'm sorry, what line item?
35,
35, okay, thank you.
and then we budgeted 322 for this year. Again, understand this year's
Oh,
still in
I
progress.
can speak to that, why that was lower this year than it would have been. I hired a new special education teacher when a veteran teacher retired. I moved a couple of staff members around. The new teacher that I hired was a first-year teacher, so she's at the very bottom of the teaching scale, and the person who was retired was at the very top of our pay scale. And so I did not we initially weren't budgeting for we didn't know she was going to retire.
Okay.
Sort of announced it like last minute, so to speak. And so that's why we had a reduction. And then the increases this year are solely attached to the negotiated COLA between the union and the school committee.
So-
I have two people who are retiring. I will replace them with the best possible candidate I can locate. I was lucky last year that the best possible candidate I locate also happened to be a first-year teacher.
Understood. So I'm gathering that speaks to the $22,000 reduction for the 27 request.
We also put,
But
we
the-
put Title I funding back into that line. We'd removed it last year because we didn't think we were going to receive it. And so we've now taken $15,000 of one of the salaries and moved it to a grant, so it took it off the operating budget.
Okay.
How
Can you speak
Title
at all
I-
to the the $90,000 difference in the prior year and whether or not that was something that's coming back in this year, next year, or not?
I'd have to look into last year's numbers and why that was low. It may have been, we probably supplemented it with some other grants.
Okay.
I do know last year, just so you're familiar, how Title I funding works is you get a letter that says you're on the warning status, and it's usually population shifts. And so we made the decision last year when we got the warning letter, like, let's not budget for it because we don't want to budget for it and then find out we didn't get it. And then we received it. And so it's a sizable chunk. And so that, this year we didn't get the letter, so we're keeping with it. We were a little surprised when we got the letter last year, and we thought, wow, that's odd. How can we not be qualifying for that? But there are a lot of shifts at the federal level, so we're not, if we get a letter that says we're not getting something, we're going to assume we're not getting it. Which is why, and I think Caitlin spoke about, we do have some title funds that we know we will not, those programs are ending. So the budget reflects that.
And is this correct as I'm going through this? So you spoke to the grants, but they're not, you've already subtracted that out of the budget, so this isn't really the operating budget, this is the operating budget after grants?
Yeah, because grants don't count as the operating budget. So this is
You
our.
still have an expense that you have to
Right.
fund.
Yes, that's paid out.
But
of
you've
the
taken them
grants.
out
Right.
because, so we don't see the full expense.
Right.
Because it's not showing full expense
Right.
less grants later.
Right,
Right.
which is why we shared the grant, so you sort of know what are we supplementing out of that grant funding. When Caitlin spoke about, this is going towards a teacher's salary, so that this is where we're allocating the grant money, because it's not always as visible in just, if there was just numbers.
Got it. But if we're trying to answer, just thinking also forward, if we're trying to answer the question we often get, which is what is the year-over-year change in the operating cost of the school, that's not the total.
Oh,
We
it
have
is,
to add
because
the
it
grants
includes,
in.
it does the same thing for last year too. So when you look at last year's column, that's minus the grants also.
But what I'm saying is minus grants is not your full operating cost. You'd have to put the grants back in to get your full operating cost, right? Because that's an expense that we paid for, whether we paid for it out of a grant or out of raise and appropriate, it's still an expense to operate the school. If we had no grants, the total cost would be
Right.
larger than we're showing here.
Yes, so the way that DESI recommends that we budget is here is the operating budget, and then here are the things that, and separately, here are the things that grants are paying for. If we lose a grant, we have to decide whether we want to continue with that, whether it's a program or a position, or we move it into the operating budget.
So for example, we partially fund a school adjustment counselor out of a grant. If that grant is cut, we have to decide, are we going to eliminate that position because it's grant funded, or are we going to add it into our operating? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow. But it also is,
I do see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying.
DESI has their own way of recommending it. We're
Sure.
trying to be
I'm
as
not saying it's right
transparent
or
as we
wrong.
can. Yeah, no, I get it.
just to be clear, I'm just saying if we're talking about
If you're
what is
looking
the
at what
full
are we
cost,
really spending, yeah.
yeah, to do everything that's happening.
So
It's great when some of it's paid for by grants. The more the better. It's just that full picture.
Yep, so it's supplementing versus supplanting. The grants are not meant to supplement our budget. They're meant to have programs that we wouldn't normally be able to have if we didn't receive the grant.
But we're using them for things that are budget,
Right.
not extra programs.
If we lost the grant, we would make the decision whether it moved into the operating budget or not.
Well, if I'm following secondary, for example, we're using 140, 190 of it towards special ed tuition, which is an operating cost. It's not a special program we could choose to drop, right?
Yeah, I mean, a circuit breaker
So-
and IDEA run a little differently. Those are, we have to, we use them for specific, I mean, circuit breaker is the state's saying, we know that these costs are wildly expensive and you can't afford it, and we're giving you money to support that.
Offset 'em.
Right.
So is that accurate to say then, and I think that's line 14 on the secondary, that the difference in our actual tuition costs are not 160, they're more like 300 and something, almost 400,
Yep.
but we're just offsetting a lot of it with
Yep.
other funding, right?
And some of the circuit breaker and IDEA was attached to a student in, say, the elementary level.
Sure.
Just moved to the secondary.
Right, okay. But if that wasn't helping us, that increase is
Right.
significantly higher.
Right.
Okay.
And to your point, we would be obligated to it, right? And right.
Right.
And
So it doesn't
circuit
show
breaker
up
could
like
only
something
be
happened.
used for, we can't choose to use it for something else. That's
Sure.
extraordinary costs associated with special education.
Yeah. Transportation, tuition, or contracted services, which
Relative to, yeah.
small.
Other questions people have for the budget or capital?
I'll just say thank you for being willing to come meet with Capital on such short notice. It's appreciated.
Is there a space that we can do our other meeting there afterward?
I'll get you set up with those.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Boss,
We can find you one,
We
yes.
know a guy.
Any other questions before we let the team go? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
And some of us will see you on Thursday. Okay, on to Franklin County Technical School. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. If you'd introduce yourselves, I know some of us know some of you, but some of you are newer faces for some of us, so.
Okay, yes, all right. I'm Rick Martin. I'm the school superintendent, and
I'm Liz Bouchard. I'm the school business manager.
And I'm Jackie Boyd, and I'm the rep for the town of Erving for Franklin County Tech.
Thank you.
okay, and tonight is kind of a twofold. One is to update the town of Erving on where we are with our MSBA school building project, and then the second part of our presentation will update you where we are with the assessments for Erving as it relates to the overall budget for Franklin County Tech. So when we start, first of all, we'll start with the school building project and where we're at. It was this screen here. I'm gonna get kind of right to it.
Would you be able to put that in full slide mode so
Yep,
it gets a little bigger?
No problem.
If possible.
Let's see. Go to the top one, that's easier. Play from start. That would give me the full slide mode, okay.
Thank you.
Well, the first slide that we have here is to what we've been dealing with. About 8 years ago, we had a situation where our electrical switchgear was flickering on and off. And we hired a company to come in to assess where we are with the old Federal Pacific electrical mechanical system. And they indicated that, yeah, we have about 11 that would be on red alert, that they would tag 11 of those. And if one of those switchgear goes, they estimated we could get you back online with electricity in about 2 months. So that was not an option. So we had to have another company evaluate that and be able to rebuild us one from scratch, since there's not one that exists. We invested about $150,000 on that first one. Well, when we got it delivered on a Wednesday, on a Friday afternoon, after the kids were dismissed, that electrical, started to, twitch, and it went off, and it never came back on. Now, as luck would have it, we had one on standby, And we had the company come back in, and by Saturday night, we were at full operating power. If that happened without that on standby, we would have been out of school for 2 months. So these are just some of the things that started to trigger what's going on. And now we have 11 more, so of course we went out and we had another one refurbished. Well, what happened 2 months later? Same thing with a different one. That went out, and now we have another one on standby. So we're in this cycle, and the estimators from the MSBA indicated that that would be about $32 million to replace the entire electrical mechanical system in our building. That would then trigger a sprinkler system. We're grandfathered in without one, but that would then trigger a sprinkler system for about $8 million. And then we had to reallocate hallways on several occasions, just in the last several years, for sewage leaks underneath our facility. We found one of them in pretty quick order. The second one took a company, and they got lucky. They found it out in the front of the building on the yard through one of the manhole covers. So you got lucky with that one. To replace that underneath would be approximately $10 million. And so basically we're around $70 to $75 million just to keep the building running from that perspective. So when we decided to go with the MSBA, that was our main initiative. Let's come in and see if we can just get that fixed. And, you know, at the time we weren't thinking new facility or anything like that. We just wanted it to get fixed. Well, they came in, they took a look at our facility. It's beautiful on the outside. The kids do a great job, and the maintenance does a great job keeping the outside of the facility really nice. But as far as the interior, that's where we went to the top of the list. So the MSBA put us on the top of the list and entered us into the MSBA project. And with that, we had to make some decisions. Let me just get to this. So we had 8 designs that were coming our way to take a look at, and you know, the one that we looked at really closely was that first one that has no building, because that would be our existing building just to bring it up to code. So we take our existing building to bring it up to code to be about $103 million, but you don't get a dime from the MSBA, no reimbursement to the towns. That started to look like shock value. That was, you know, that was really high for just bringing it up to code. Then we started looking at the other facilities. Well, the other facilities were coming in around, you know, 202, 196, 197. And then those top figures include hard and soft cost. So we were looking at, you know, what do we do with a renovation? What do we do with a reno add? What do we do with an all box facility? Or that last one on the far one, option 8A, is the one that we took a look at. Our approximate overall reimbursement for our MSBA project would be a 66.6% reimbursement. However, the real cost, because you hear these numbers out there with other projects, you have to calculate the soft cost. You know, what does it cost, you know, for that non-educational space? We decided not to get an auditorium because that's space that wouldn't be reimbursed. Your office spaces, your hallways, to tear down your existing facility, you know, all of those are soft costs. So the actual reimbursement is closer to, you know, that's an old rate, but it's closer to 47, 48% reimbursement, not the 66.6. So when you hear that, that can be misleading sometimes. What did we do to come to these decisions? We looked at this. It was a decision-making matrix. We met with some school committee reps, administration, teachers, parents, students, and kind of went through all the different options and which one was able to meet the needs. So we landed on option 8A because 8A had something in the back we kind of liked. And that was, you see the back part of that box? The majority of our shops would be there, and the front part would house many of the academics. And why is that important? Because right now when you walk in our building, if you're in math class, you are 12 feet away from breathing in the collision repair fumes. So you're in English, you're breathing in the fumes from across the hall right now. So this kind of separates your Voc shops for the most part from your academics. It made the most sense for that particular footprint on that end of it. I think it should also be noted that right now, according to all of the Voc schools that have been going on in the last 10 years across the state, we're the only one that's going to be building our facilities smaller than our current population. And the reason why we're doing that is important. It's got twofold. One is we know that there's a flat line in enrollment growth within the county as a whole. Two is the significant costs associated with going up 100 kids. They wanted us with a 700-person building. We got currently 650 in the building. They thought 700 was pretty reasonable. At $100 million more? Made no sense, right? The buildings have taken off in a time when we can't afford for them to take off as far as the escalation in the price since COVID. Cost of materials, supplies, and labor have shot up, and they haven't come down. So that's a significant concern. As far as where it's going to be located, we're looking at like right around there, right up the baseball field in that particular area. This is just a further breakdown of like the Voc shops in the back and the academics in the front. And that's just the academics in the front. As far as the timeline is concerned, we're kind of in this part. There would be a district-wide vote on October 6th on a Tuesday. And if everything goes through, the completion won't be till, I think, 2031 it says there, somewhere in that time frame. The proposed,
Yeah, move in hopefully 2030, but
Yep.
by the time they decommission the old building and close out the project, 2031.
Yep. And so that's kind of what they're looking at. Well, one of the designers that we have were well aware, when we had our first meeting, we had 32 designers in the room, and we told them, you may leave the room if you think you're going to build the Taj Mahal. That's exactly what we said, because we know we just want a folk school that is going to give the community a bang for the buck. When you're talking about, we've served the community well for 50 years, what's going to get us the next 50 years? Are we going to keep draining money into a building? If we just bring it up to code, what does that solve? That gets you 15 years before you're out to bond again to get that building fixed again. So they were careful on their design with that, but they also did a good job with what they're projecting the design to be. If you look closely, the bricks and everything else, and even the corners, are resembling the industrial boulevard, some of the mills in town. They wanted to be careful when they looked at the design to represent what's already in the area. The part in the middle is called the bridge, kind of representing that bridge in downtown Turners, as well as the French King that will bridge the two parts of the school. And again, this is kind of a smaller square footage. When we compare like schools, Old Colony, South Shore, Voc have the same population as ours. Now, they did their estimates a couple of years ago. So if you calculate 4% of an increase in both labor, then 4% in supplies and material each of the last 2 years, they should be significantly higher than us. Well, back 2 years ago, they were $280 million buildings, right? So we're coming in at the real price rate now at 236 to 238.5 or something like that. That's where it's coming in right now, with about 48% being paid back to the communities. It's still going to come out to about $125 million split between 19 member towns on the equalized valuation. I'll get to how that impacts Erving in just a minute. But that's kind of where we are there. Just to give you an idea where the cost has been, you can see back in 2013 with the Greenfield High School building is $334 per square foot at $66 million. And yet you see that line, that's where the average line, and all those other dots around there were all the other MSBA projects that were being built at the same time. So they were slightly above average. Well, to follow that line up, that line didn't go all the way up, but we are below the average in there. But look at the price. I mean, it was $893 as of that. I think it's $917, but they brought the total price down, so they kind of offset it. But the prices of these new buildings have gone through the roof. The other thing is our population has kind of flattened off. like we expected. We were 591 last year, 579, and that's to reflect an enrollment trend I will show you in our budget. As far as what does Franklin County Tech bring to the community, an independent analysis showed that Franklin County Tech was the top-rated school for kids going for the reasons why they went to Franklin County Tech School. These are your trucks driving around town, your electricians, plumbers, and what have you. But we do have the highest cooperative education rate in the entire state. We have an average of 110 students going out to paid placements every year. And many of these kids, in our follow-up studies, we are obligated to provide survey data to the state of where the students are doing now. Well, we have among the highest Perkins data, so we receive Perkins grant money. Most of our students are staying put. They're paying taxes, they're building homes, or they're moving in and raising families. So we're getting a lot of that input. And I think it's because the kids are going there for the reason why they're stated. We are not all things to all people. You know, there's great college education opportunities for the surrounding member school districts, and they do a great job. You know, we're targeting what we're here for. And
Can I also make a quick mention of our adult education program that's offered in the evenings? To date, we've had 217 graduates, and 52 have received full-time employment in the area. So another notable thing going on at Franklin Tech.
And
Sorry, I just thought
yeah,
it
no,
kind
that's
of fit this.
that
I
is
just thought it fit this slide.
perfect. No, I'll forget more than I know. When we look at, you know, where do we get some money to do some of the things that we're doing with the Veterinary Animal Science Center or the aviation, since 2014, we pulled in over $11.5 million of competitive grants. So that's not grant coming out of the taxpayers. These are just competitive grants that we're going after. And we were able to, you know, do the aviation program. It's a 12,000 square foot hangar with, you know, with aircraft, and kids are going to get out of there being able to get a livable wage and pretty much, you know, work anywhere. And then the other part of it was the Veterinary Animal Science Center. And that's important for other reasons. It has impacted a few kids from Erving over the years. When I say that, kids that otherwise would have gone to Smith Vocational School at a astronomical cost to the town of Erving of $65,000 or more a year, because they have the right to go to an animal science program per state law. Now that we have one, they have to come here. So it does save towns in that respect. As far as Erving in the project, the anticipated 30-year bond, this is just a rough estimate this time. As I said earlier, we are in the schematic design phase. It's $222,000 per year range. That's based on the EQV. And then, like, Erving right now has about $20,336 per pupil assessment for 20 students, and that would be your total for the upcoming budget. And if all these students, if we didn't exist, it would be substantially more than that if they chose to go to Smith Voc. As far as where we are with the lottery and how the quotas work, again, we have 20 students enrolled in Erving. And so that's 5 per year. So Erving would get 5 in the quota in the lottery system. So currently 5 students have been accepted with 9 total applications. So once the town's quota is filled, any additional students from that town go on a holding list. And the reason for that, because some towns don't fill up their quota. So if they go down the list, it can be projected probably at least 3 out of those 4 will probably get in anyways that are on the current holding list. From what we can see right now, that's a fair estimate. I checked it before the meeting, just in case. And as a committee and as a school district, we'll do something of a common sense approach, because we don't want Erving to be stuck with a quota for the rest of their existence at 20 when they have a rolling average in prior years. Now you're 11 less than last year, so obviously your town assessment is going to go from 811,000 down to 400,000 or 407,000, something in that range, because of it's going to be dictated. So we'll look at other avenues, whether that be a rolling average over 5 years or something like that, so we get a more accurate quota moving forward. And so that's for the building project right now. So on this separate first section of the presentation, you have any questions, I have my business manager here as well. And she knows much more about the ins and outs on a lot of stuff, so.
I feel like you just threw her into the hot
It's
seat.
been a good first year here, right, to join?
Now that I've presented it, you can answer first.
I have a question on the building. Here, I can understand the reasoning for not going larger, which scares me a little. Is there sufficient room with the plan as shown now for program expansion as more and more things, I'm thinking down the line, you guys may want to add more programming. I know you've already added 2.
Yeah.
That facility will allow for that?
Great question, and we've thought about that as well. Well, one of the things we noted that when they build an MSBA project for 600, they build it to 80% capacity. So we actually can fit closer to 680 in there to begin with, or closer to 700. The second part of that is some of the expansion details have been outlined through the schematic design, where there is room on certain sections of the building in the event that we needed to add a specific program. So we're still looking at that.
Okay.
But that was a factor in that design choice as well, that there would be space if you needed to go off the sides of the building.
Okay, great.
Plus, we have the 2 outbuildings
Yeah.
that suffice a good capacity of our students.
And we may have a third. We just put in a grant for $2.5 million, a competitive grant that's going to expand upon our animal science program and give us an agricultural bond. We have another 10 acres that you don't see here that we have as well. So we just want to make sure that, kids don't get tempted to go over to Smithbrook.
And those expansion, I did see a bullet about expansion, I think, in that list of pros and cons.
Yeah.
Is that both during the building phase and in the future? If 10 years from now you want to, it's designed to be able to?
Yep.
Okay. Is that 2 stories? Is what I saw
On the
that?
academic
On the
end.
academic side?
On
Okay.
the academic end.
So that
would-
second slide had the upper.
It looked like, yeah, okay. Oh,
Right.
okay, that's what the second slide was. Got it.
Yeah.
And the vet building and the flight, those are staying? I
Yes.
didn't notice, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're not
They
rebuilding
better
those.
not touch those. They gotta get past me. I'll be standing in front of them. I'm
And
not
so
gonna allow
you've
that.
got a little horn tooting to do about the
Aviation.
thank you, the aviation
yeah, that's the
program.
one.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. We just received FAA approval, which is very difficult to get. We're probably one of, I think we're one of 5 in the nation that have FAA approval at the high school level. So we're real excited about that. That was a lot of collaboration with school committee, with administration, with the teachers, and working with the FAA has had its share of challenges.
I'm glad I wasn't the teacher being inspected that day. Let's just say,
It's just a
yeah.
lot of work.
Yeah.
Question on enrollment. So I know that the whole lottery system, et cetera, do you have a rough number on what number of students don't make it in each year on
We
average?
don't know it. It's going to be depending on the number of applicants.
Okay.
Right now, we just had the lottery last Thursday, so they're still shuffling through, who's on the wait list, all that kind of stuff. So the people who have gotten in have already been notified, but we expect a 50-student turnaround. And here's what, we had 38 students that were accepted last year, for example, that decided not to come. That happens. That's a normal routine. Given a lottery, and they made it real easy, where you didn't have to interview, you didn't have to show up, you didn't have to submit anything, and you get an opportunity at that point in time. We had probably more applications. Yeah, I'll throw it in anyways. So we're expecting probably that to turn around 50 on that, and I don't think we're that far down the list before that is empty. And we've only been in these situations for a waiting list for 4 years. Before that, there was no such thing of a waiting list at Franklin County Tech. So this is new territory that we're kind of going down, and and then the lottery on top of that has kind of complicated some things.
So the last few years now that you have had a wait list, has it ended up mostly being empty by the time all of the shuffles are done, or has there
Come
been some
close,
left
not
behind, but not
totally.
much?
I think we
Okay.
got down 1 year, we had 5
Okay.
that ended up. I think last year we were still around 18 at the end. So it does kind of depend.
Sure. Other questions? How about on the 222 roughly, I think it was, is the annual assessment for the proposed approximate building cost for 30 years?
Correct. And we're, you know, the
mic.
estimators just reconciled the figures, so everything will be, I think it'll be a little more favorable than that. We're seeing a little bit, MSBA, I have so many acronyms in my head, almost, reformulated how they reimburse. So there's some additional funds for fixtures and furniture and technology and just reimbursement in general. So that number, I'm hoping will go down a bit. But when
Well-
you're ramped up at the highest point, about 222 now. So, but we'll have better figures for you shortly. The estimators just reconciled at the end of last week, so it's really a moving target, but. we
And
should
when
be
would
soon.
that kick in? When would that start relative to the project?
So
The
really ramping
assessment?
up to that 200,000 level, thinking 2031.
And is that going to fluctuate based on?
Once you get from 2031 to about 2059, 2058, it'll be about level.
I meant by enrollment. Does the assessment change by enrollment annually, or is it going to be
It will
fixed
not.
once it's set?
No, because
Okay,
it's your population to the total and then your
Okay.
EQB.
got it.
So even though we have a high EQV, our low population helps us.
Thankfully, something does with that EQB.
Yeah, so overall.
Because it usually
right-
just hurts.
yeah.
Yes.
Overall, Irving right now is like 2.6% of the project,
Okay, got it.
your share.
Right. It's good to know whether that fluctuates like the, operating cost does, just
Yeah,
to
no.
be prepared, so. This year, it's down, it looks like, obviously because of enrollment from what, we were almost 600 the current year and down to 406, is that right? Or is that
Yeah, you had
to
31
come and,
students last year to 20 this year.
got it.
Yep, I could jump into the budget whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead on it.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, I think we're ready to look at budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me just jump right into that. So the next part of this would be where we are in the operating budget. Just because each school district's a little different, just so you know where we're at as a school district. We have our first reading, public hearing on Wednesday night. And that's when the school committee gets to see the budget. They saw bits and pieces at the finance committee. Jackie Boyden sits in on the finance committee as well. And then the school committee has 1 month to deliberate. Any changes or fluctuations will then be discussed or not discussed during that time frame. And then in March is when, the second week in March, the second Wednesday in March is when we vote on our final budget. Then the next day, we send out the electronics to all of our member towns and then the hard copies. So you're gonna get this version of a budget that gets voted on in March 12th to 15th, in that range. So that's kind of where we are in the budget process. As far as where we are at, we have the top half of the screen is basically how we receive our money. And to answer your question in with regards to the assessment, we look at the trend with Erving in the yellow. So you're 28, 27, 31, and 20. So you haven't hit 20 until 8 years ago. So this is kind of that you're gonna do hills and valleys, that's just the fluctuation of it. Which if you highlight down over here in the yellow, you'll see it's 811,000 and change, and it drops to 406 and change. And your per pupil expenditures, if you compare with the other towns, you're on the highest end with, 2 or 3 other towns. And that's something that the state deems Erving just as wealthy as Wellesley, Weston, Dover, Sherburne, because theirs too is 20,336. So I don't know how they calculate that, but it just shows you that the rural schools aren't being recognized out here. So that's the assessment. So if I click back here, it'll get me right back. The town trend, we just kind of reviewed that. The debt service is our old windows and doors project. The windows, doors, roof project that we had. And that for the towns is right here for Erving. We got a half a dozen years left on that, 8 years or something like that. That fluctuates a couple $100 either way for the rest.
It's down slightly over, yeah.
It's down a little bit, but it fluctuates very small amounts. That's a kind of a consistency. Chapter 78, you're going to hear this in the newspaper for a lot of other schools. Is the Chapter 70 aid for us was a 0.79% increase from the state. And when we looked at that, we were surprised, because when you combine the state aid of regional transportation as the next line item, which increased slightly, about 8%, and this went up 0.79%, the totality of our state aid was 1.7%. We initially budgeted 2%, so we were close, but many school districts budgeted what the state told you to budget, the 4.5% increase, and we stayed away from that because we learned our lesson that it's, these are all just projection numbers. So when we look at, for your benefit, the DOR cherry sheet, the numbers I just showed you are exactly what the state gave us. So if I go to the cherry sheet here, and you can do this when you get the thing, you can go to any school and look up any one of them. If I go down here to Franklin County Tech here, and I just click submit, the numbers I just provided to you are right here. Here's the 6.6248 million here, and here's our transportation number. So that's kind of how the budget book works. If you just want to find a number, you just click it, it'll take you to some state page or some generation where we receive the numbers from. As far as the transportation, as you're all well aware, in regional transportation, we're the largest regional geographical school district in the state with 561 square miles of territory. No school's even half that. With that, we still have to pay through our taxpayers nearly $400,000 of unpaid funds from the state. They promised with regional transportation to be 100% funded, and then size 3 font, pending allocations. All right, so we're still short on that end of it. Non-member towns, the towns that aren't part of the 19-member towns have to pay a much higher tuition rate than the average towns. And so we take that money to help offset the town assessments to try to make up a little bit of the difference. So we went up a little bit from last year. We went up like a student and a half, what that would equate to get to 800,000. And so that was a little bit of help. The other one is a self-contained pre-employment program called PEP. Now, if you click on any one of these, you'll just give descriptors of what everything is. So as you don't know it now, when you get the budget book electronically, you can read up on each of those indicators and find out more. But that's where we had about $100,000 to the budget because we got a few more students that were placed there. Other revenues, it's at surplus. We are a vocational school. We have machines that go out to auction and what have you. It's about $25,000. And we took a little hit here with our excess and deficiency from the previous year. So that was another $120,000, $130,000 dip from the previous year. That just shows we're using more of our operating budget. And that's your town's free cash. So when you kind of compare the difference between the two. And so that's pretty much how we received our money. And Liz, if you want to tell us how we spend it.
Sure. And that excess and deficiency, that is every cent of our certified amount.
Yeah, and that's the whole
our
other
budget.
game too.
So kind of
I
important.
mean, you can click that, it can take you right there, and then you can go down to the certification part. It does the same thing. You just look up the school, and it will flash right up on you if you wanted to go through that exercise. But I don't, for the purpose of time.
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd
Go
let them
ahead.
know that
Yeah.
that is the full amount
Yep.
to offset the budget. So district leadership and administration, there's a slight decrease of 3% due to a longstanding retirement and some positional changes that were cost saving. Instructional services.
Russ Cobras used to be in the seat for 28 years, so
Got our business
we
manager.
saved a little
So,
bit.
I guess no bargain this year for you. Just happy to be here. Instructional services, that was a tough line for us this year due to budget constraints. There will be cuts in instructional services. I can get to the other reasons for that. So there's a slight decrease of about 2.5% on that line between the cuts. And then we also had a 3% negotiated COLA increase with the union for our teachers. Student services, there is a slight decrease in that line as well. We're looking to cost share our school resource officer. So that'll offset the budget slightly just by about 1%. And the student services are extracurriculars, our student-related activities, nursing, medical services, some food service stuff, and school safety. Pupil transportation, we are in a 5-year contract. Each year there's a 2.5% escalation increase. So that's all that budget line is. And like Mr. Barton said, we are not reimbursed for our full transportation costs. So unfortunately, we still have to put that in our budget. Plant operations and maintenance, slight decrease in that line. We did a paving repair, crack sealing of our driveway last year, so we didn't need to factor that into the budget this year. And of course, we don't want to do a new driveway, hoping that there's going to be some construction going on at some point soon. Insurance for active employees, that's where the problem lies this year. I'm sure you're all very aware. We are part of the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. So the 19% increase for July 1, the 20% increase October 1st, and the projected 16 to 20 for FY27 is a budget nightmare.
A $1.1 million unanticipated hit since this time last year.
So that's impacting both the active employees as well as the retirees. So going line by line, just as the Erving Elementary did, really trying to refine every budget line to save positions or retain positions and address this huge increase that was not anticipated. We knew that we got hit with that 19% July 1st, but we thought, okay, that'll stop the bleed. And that October 1st really was not good for the district. And then we were hoping for single-digit increases for FY27, and that's not happening. So big reason why our budget even went up the 3.74% it did. Tough to overcome though. Other non-employee insurance, that's our property and liability insurance. So we are factoring an increase on that. We have a aviation hangar that's now come online. It's no longer under construction, so that's part of the increase. And our property and liability has just increased over the years. So that's about a 14% increase. Our hangar land lease, that is for the aviation hangar. It's on the Turners Falls Municipal Airport property. So we have a very favorable agreement with them, a long-term lease for the 7812. Transfer to capital stabilization, that line has decreased drastically to help reduce the budget deficit. So last year we had asked almost 80% more on that line. So we're only looking to fund $50,000, even though with an aging school building, that's slightly concerning because we have the buckets in the hallways. We have equipment that gets flooded when we have melting snow and rain. But based on the insurance increases, we really had to trim down some other lines. So we brought that to $50,000. Debt service, that's the windows and doors project that we talked about prior. School choice tuition, we're budgeting for about 2 students that may attend Monty Tech for programs that we don't offer at Franklin Tech. And they're about $6,000 per pupil that we would get billed. This year we just had 1. We're proposing for 2 next year. And then transfer to OPEB. This is our small attempt to cover our post-employment benefits. We have about a $15 million liability, but again, with the budget deficit that we had, we brought that down by $20,000 to at least show a good faith effort in putting money toward that liability, but without adding more dollars to the budget line.
So before we had to do a reduction in force of approximately a half a dozen total positions, which is significant, we had to cut out more than $500,000 out of the budget before we even started that process. So we expect our excess and deficiency next year to be very thin. So we're on a thin budget because it's going to take several years to make up for that insurance line item. As far as the last part of the presentation, just to give you an idea where we are with enrollment, I'll just scroll to it real quickly. So this is kind of a large trend that we go through to give us an idea how to project out for a future year's budget. So we're currently in that 2025-26. The orange line is the number of freshmen. We had 172 come in. The blue line is the number of available eighth graders in Franklin County. So when we take in, usually about an average of 30% come to us, and then that justifies, you can see how the enrollment goes down overall here. Well, so does our freshman enrollment, as you can see here. Now, that's not taking in consideration students that may want to come for specific programs, just like we have special programs that Smith doesn't have. Who knows what will end up happening, whether those numbers stabilize. But we have to do projections, and these numbers have pretty much held over time. We're actually taking less students now than we did back in 2015-16. So you see 132 here? We had 153 or 54 applicants. So 132 we took out of 153. When you see this 172, that was under 260 applicants or 270 applicants. So the percentage of the applicants has changed dramatically. So that's where we are with that enrollment, and I don't want to bore you to death with all that other stuff. And so that's where it's left with the town. And so that's an overall increase to our operating budget at 3.72%. That's even with all those cuts. But we had to make a hard decision this year to soften the blow moving forward into the future. If you don't make hard calls early, you're going to just kick the can down the road, and it's not going to be good.
And we did have some losses in entitlement grant funding as well, so that obviously impacts positions at the same time when you lose, $90,000 to $100,000 in grant funding.
So here it is right here. So the grants that they talked about earlier, those IDAs, there's one line item. You see the equitable access grant, I'll highlight it. The 427, they didn't even offer it this year.
So we weren't in the running. So that's $75,000 that covered a 0.5 and a 0.25 of a position, and
Yeah.
it's
So
gone,
it was a
and you have no
perfect
time to
storm.
react really on that.
It was the perfect storm, and when you get in these situations, sometimes you gotta, you really have to make those really hard decisions, and these are really hard in these type of times, so. That's where we are with the budget.
I'll start with a couple of questions. You mentioned about a half a dozen. Is that that you had to cut? Is that full FTEs or various partial?
Are those what?
Full FTEs that you ended up
Yeah,
having
so
to
it's
cut, or is it partial?
It's a combination. It's, we had to eliminate one position entirely, and then the other two were instructional FTEs that we, one we had a retirement that we're not going to be able to renew back, and the other had to be a reduction in force. And then we have a half-time, then we get a few paraprofessionals, then we have someone in the administrative office that does public relations. So there's just the things like that that we had to be able to do, and the whole thing added up to 6.
Got it. On the health insurance front, within your budget, are you using the 20% for next year?
We
or the
have
16?
20% factored in right
Okay,
now.
got
I
it.
just sat in a meeting today that the Hill Group is the consultant that the trust hired. And I asked them, they're still saying 16% with plan design changes, but then we need to use, if we do 32B, the sections, if you're impact bargaining, go up against a 20% with no plan design changes. So I in turn asked them, is that how you're gonna frame the vote at the end of the month? And they would not answer.
That's fine.
So we still have that unknown. But by factoring in the 20%, even if it does land at the 16, there's gonna be mitigation costs if we do bargain through 32B.
Yep.
So we need to factor that in as well. And we are looking at other options as well besides the trust. It's gonna be, we've gone out to bid. It's just, it's tough to get quotes prior to this time because nobody's gonna have their market, their rate set. But I will say, even with these increases, our coverage and our premiums still are running pretty average to what's out there. Lots of research. GIC is voting at the end of the week. They're gonna have plan design changes, rate increases. It's everywhere. But they would not answer me today if they're gonna give if we just have to vote in confidence on their recommendation of 16%, or if they're gonna give us an option to kind of retain our plan design. So I know there's an executive committee meeting where they say that they will decide on that on the 21st, I believe. So I attend all of those as well. And,
She's our expert.
I'm not, but it's just an important thing. I mean, if it's the livelihood of others, and we have to make cuts based on it, it's concerning. So yeah, we are looking into other options as well. But right now we have 20% because we're better off to be able to bring things down and return positions than to be reactionary like we were last year. We budgeted 8%.
8% came in at 20.
And it came in, right, and then now you're really going through
Yep.
last minute trying to save the day in the budget, so.
I mean, the difference between a 16% and 20% in dollar values is $100,000.
It's a lot of money.
Right.
So,
We have big numbers too. I totally
And they-
understand.
and-
More wanted to ensure that hopefully there's
Yeah.
20 in there, so it could only get better,
Right.
we
Yeah.
hope.
And it's comical when you talk about 32B, the sections, how do you do mitigation of cost savings? Like, savings, what, yeah. So, but we have to anticipate that may be something because of the union.
Understood. My only other question was, you referenced last year's assessment at 811, I think, in there. It's a
Yep.
little small from here to read.
yep.
Our assessment was not nearly that high last year, so I think it was like 589 or,
I showed 589,309.
589?
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm
Okay.
not sure.
31,
Just-
it was 1,010 per pupil at 589,309. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
it sounds like
Good
what we
catch.
have. I just, something didn't line up there. And you said
Something-
811 earlier, and then I think it was
Well, I
on
was
the
like, oh
slide.
gosh, I was
so-
like, Jackie, don't look at my notes because I obviously messed this up.
As long as your numbers are good, whatever, just puts on the slide. That's good. Okay. So 589 to 406 is what you're
Yeah.
seeing, right? Okay.
So
all
for,
right.
and 20
All right.
students
So
this
that
year.
lines up with our last year to this year.
And you have 9 seniors graduating.
That's great. But not 9 coming in yet.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well,
Yet. I said
right.
yet.
And they have to accept or decline by February 27th or 28th?
Yep, right at the end of the
Right,
last available
so-
day in February.
They don't have as much time, I think, this year to accept or decline, so hopefully we can
There'll be
keep
that
the wait
turnaround.
list moving quickly.
Great. Other questions on the budget?
One more quick note, we also don't get rural aid at Franklin Tech, so
'Cause you're
that's
not a
another
rural
big,
school?
you know, so, but when you get these huge changes in insurance costs, we don't have that to fall back on to offset some of that. So I just think that's kind of noteworthy as well, when we have, how many of our sending districts receive the rural aid?
Well,
and-
some
and-
receive upwards of $1 million.
Right, so, I don't know, just kind of something I like to share.
They don't believe vocational schools deserve rural
Right.
aid.
Because they're not rural.
Yeah, 561 square
And they-
miles for.
Right, I was gonna say, they don't go further out in the rural area than any one school
Yeah.
does on their own.
It makes no sense.
It does not make
agree.
any sense. There's a note right in the governor's line that unless they do private vocational schools, but not
Public
public
vocational.
vocational schools.
But
Private?
private gets rural,
That's in there.
but public does not.
Yes.
Make that make sense for me.
Well, hopefully at some point someone can make it make sense to.
That's crazy.
I know there's been a lot of talk from our representatives about focusing on how the math is done and how aid is calculated. I hope that's on their horizon as well, that
There's
the
a
rural
chapter
aid.
70 workshop I have, I can share a link with for someone next week if someone's interested in making
sounds
sense of
like
the
a-
funding formula.
Yeah, or just maybe one of
It's
us
like a
will
full
just send
day,
something
9
over to
to 1
Comifer to make
workshop,
sure
but-
that she's on top of that one as well, because I know she's been looking at a lot of the Chapter 70 stuff, and just make sure that doesn't get lost in the shuffle, because that's a big one.
But I can definitely share notes too if someone just wanted to receive that, because we still try to make sense of it year after year.
Yeah, it sounds like it's time for a passionately worded letter to go. out
Yeah,
to-
definitely.
Mm-hmm. Or more than
Indeed.
maybe this many towns worth.
Mm.
You had that count off the top of your head, I don't. Okay. Any other questions? And so you said it's about, what, 6 weeks out for the final
Yeah.
approved budget, roughly? Okay. All right.
Then you get to kind of do all these links, and
Jump
you can't
around.
sleep at night, you can press all the links and put you right to bed.
I'll test them all during February vacation.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Dan, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, do you wanna just announce the dates? I know you guys have a couple of information sessions coming
was
up
gonna
for the
say
building. Do you wanna just let our 10,000
Sure.
viewers know what those dates are?
We have one tomorrow night at Greenfield Community College, beginning at 6 p.m. And the other one is May 2nd, is it?
Is it the 6th?
The 6th?
Is it a Monday or a Tuesday?
Like a week at a time, yeah, let's see.
I think we moved it to a Wednesday, actually.
Oh, then it would be the 6th if it was a Wednesday.
Yeah, probably May 6th.
I think, do we
Yeah,
originally have it on?
Yeah, but we made the call over to Greenfield, and they moved it to the May 6th.
Right, because we originally had it for May
Right.
4th, and we're gonna move it, so that we have
So-
different days of the week.
Those are just generalized informational sessions, kind of what you heard here tonight. It's kind of very similar in that sense, but we want to give the general public an opportunity to learn kind of where we're at in the process. And, why we're at, the unfortunate thing is that there's not a zero-cost option. That's, in this economy, that's really tough.
And those are both at 6:30 at GCC?
Both at 6.
6 at
6
GCC,
p.m., yep.
okay. Great.
And that's when we have our designers and our architects here to answer any detailed questions that might pop up.
I'd just like to give credit where I think credit is due. And the 10,000 people watching us who joke about, they should give credit and think it's due. The tech school administration and staff, you don't have to do a lot of things that you do, but you do them. And you bring in, you say $11 million worth of grant money, that's money that you can do extra things, doesn't affect the taxpayer. Even if it's money that's from the government, that was our money, and we're getting it back
Right.
here instead of spending it somewhere else. So thank you for doing that. We don't have to, and we appreciate that you do. The other common thread that I see, whether it's a tech school, secondary, or elementary, or anybody's home life, costs will go up substantially. And I much appreciate that you all go line by line by line and say, do we really need this? Is it, or just something nice to have? It's nice to have the things that are nice to have, but when you have to cut to what you really need, and it hurts sometimes. People don't have jobs anymore, and you don't like to do that, but thanks for doing it, doing the hard stuff and not just drifting as you could.
I mean, the worst thing that you want to do to a teacher is let them know in April, May, or June that they don't have a job when you knew back in February. That's ethically the wrong thing to do. Give the educators an opportunity to feed their families and get other jobs, because all the people generally do get other positions, but you need to give them time.
And I just speak up and say this because we do have some people watch, and hopefully the people that are watching spread the word that this is not just a little town government saying, we got a lot of money, let's just blow it and throw it away.
Right.
We're watching every penny the best that we can, and even though they're not gonna like getting their tax bills, nobody does, it's looked at, and it's considered, and it's a thoughtful process, not just people that don't care. So
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Take care.
You too. Review and approval of the draft special town meeting warrant. So last time we talked about the date change, or did we confirm people for that yet?
Town council's confirmed, town clerk is confirmed, town moderator confirmed.
Great. Other than that, adjustment to number 5. We fixed a couple items that we called out last time, I believe. Any questions or concerns on that? Article 6, are we waiting on the treasurer to confirm the split issue?
That's right, I need to follow up with her on that one. Thank you for the reminder.
Because she hasn't confirmed that yet, that split's right, correct?
I need to follow back up with her.
The total's right, it's a question of where we allocate it, right? Okay. I thought we talked about this in the last one on that article of funding. Do we want to fund the wastewater enterprise portion from retained earnings rather than free cash? I thought that was brought up, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just thought that in my head, so I'm bringing it up now.
I think you might have just thought that in your head. I don't
Okay, that's
recall
possible.
that.
It was just a question because they do have the retained earnings, and we could
That's correct.
allocate it from there rather than taking out of free cash, which is going in a lot of places quickly. Or not.
I mean, it's their expense. I can understand why we would take it from there and not use free cash.
And the retained earnings that you provided on the revenue estimates is separate from the capital stabilization within that account, right? Okay.
Correct.
So we have about 650,000 in retained, separate from the capital portion. So at 60, it's less than 10% of that.
Do you have any other anticipated big-ticket items on the horizon, or?
That we need to be prepared for? I don't recall. Do we know what was certified for retained earnings from last year? I thought I had it in front of me, but I don't.
From last year?
The excess, budget excess, which became retained earnings, right?
For 26.
Unspent for FY25.
Stand by.
The amount turned back for how we normally refer to it.
For sewer, 653,348.
That's what the number is right now. But what was added to it from the prior year? Like what was unspent budget? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you want to know what was
Like
unspent?
returned, what was returned at the end of the year, yeah. If you don't have it handy, that's fine. I have it, I think I've got it here.
Stand by. Should be in the town report.
Anyhow, we can come back to it. I don't want to hold everybody up on that. Is that something people want to consider, funding it from there, or leave it alone from free cash?
I think it makes sense, excuse me, to take it from retained earnings. Jim, to your question, there are some capital requests from him, but those would, if the funding is in the capital, it would come from there. To clarify, the wastewater capital we would take it out of. His total looks to be about right around $1 million in capital requests. And that's just what was submitted. We as a group capital has not met yet and made any selections. I think my quick math is adding that up correctly.
Right. And, I mean, to me, it's a sensible option. I'm wondering what else. 10% doesn't seem like a unreasonable number until there's 98% already earmarked for something else. Or
Well, retained is nothing's earmarked, right? I
I'm
mean,
just-
versus capital,
right,
but
not
yeah, I know what
earmarked.
you're saying.
That's fatigue setting in, wrong word.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that one. On to the next. The multi-year agreement article. This is the 5-year for tasers. Because although I was all like gung-ho about we'll do it right away out of operating budget, it's a 5-year agreement, so we'll need authorization because we can only do 3 without town meeting. So, because it's a 5-year, we'll have to get town meeting authorization to enter into the agreement for 5 years. So we put it on as a new article to the special.
This is the tasers?
Correct.
Okay.
So it's approval to sign it, it's not to fund it.
I believe all the other changes were changes we've already reviewed. So I believe after that one, all the other changes are changes we've already reviewed.
Correct.
The secondary ed rep ones, I believe that can go off the warrant completely.
I think you can take it off for now.
Yep.
We've
I-
done further research into it.
I think we should for now, and if there's any question we need to bring it back, we'll bring it back at
For
annual,
the
but
annual, so we can hold it.
Thought we decided that last week, but okay.
specific to Franklin Tech,
Right.
because the origination documents specify how it's
We
done.
further researched the Gil Montague situation as well.
Okay. Then I misunderstood last week because I thought we had taken the whole article off last week, so.
It was just the part that's stricken was Franklin Tech part. We've since found that there's documents that identify how it's supposed to be done at Gil Montague, which aligns with what they wanted, that we just have to follow. I believe. And then the new one, which I don't think is in here yet, you haven't put the language on there for the treasurer, right?
No, so that was a recommendation from FinCom.
Right.
I can add that if the select board is amenable to that as well.
Yeah, I think after we met jointly last time and brought it up, you guys met and endorsed it, and the board, I thought, was in favor of putting it on, but we should formalize that. So do we want to see an article to move the treasurer's position from elected to appointed on the special?
Second. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so yes,
Do
please.
you care where it appears in the order of the STM?
Last.
Save the
Because
best, save the best for last.
It's going to be controversial, I
Okay.
believe, and I would hate for it to be first and then have have a mass exodus afterwards.
So I'm going to replace what was Article 9 with a new Article 9. Okay.
Please.
And I should mention, we got confirmation today from MSBA that they are fine with the language as presented.
Okay.
So we got that this morning.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we carried it, but I think we were going to, unless you have an update from Time Bond, I don't think you do, we were going to pass over the AP mill pending the response on that for the joint meeting
Oh, I
discussion.
thought you were still on the STM, sorry. Yeah, I was like, what was it supposed to be time
No,
bound
no,
on
no,
the
sorry.
STM?
I've moved
Oh,
on.
that's fine. Yeah, yes, yes.
So yesterday.
Right.
Wait, hold on.
I shouldn't
Don't
move on,
we
I guess.
need- don't we need to vote for the STM article tonight?
That's why I thought we weren't done yet.
Okay.
Yes,
He's
I have
right.
no
So he's just
recommenda-
doing his own thing over there.
I have no recommendations from FinCom or Capital about your articles.
So, and we don't have the treasurer article on here. We know you said you want to support it, but we don't have it on here, so I guess if you want to support him, it'd be a motion to support him, the warrant as planned to be amended.
The language from the statute is very simple. You cannot change the language. It is literally 2 sentences. So the statute tells you what you can put the article when you're asking for a position that was elected to become appointed. You cannot deviate from that. So unless you really wanted to go at length in your discussion as to why you're recommending it in the article information, the actual language of the article is prescribed. There's nothing to change there. So.
The elected versus appointed?
Yeah, and then even on the ballot, because it will have to appear on the annual town meeting, the annual town election ballot, the same article, the same statute prescribes what that language will be on the ballot, and it's a yes/no vote. So
Okay.
there are no real choices with that, other than if you want to explain in your article information section your rationale.
And our next joint is not till the 23rd, which would make it way too late.
Right.
Right, okay.
I mean, I can do it now if you'd like me to do it right now.
You're asking that we recommend or not the whole warrant, is that it at the moment?
That is an open question for both FinCom and Capital, if you want to recommend any or some of the articles. But then there was this question about, do you want to see the draft updated with the treasurer's question in there? And if you can give me a few moments, I can do that for you, if you want to review it.
So do you want to see it before you endorse the articles or some articles, or do you not need to see it because it's
Well, if the
defined language?
If the wording is statutorily required, there's not, we can say, no, we're not gonna do it that way.
I don't like how it
So
looks.
So I don't have a problem with that one at all. I do have one other question on something else before we look at the thing, but,
Please.
on Article 5 about the transferring from general stabilization for the deficit, is it because it's a tax, appellate tax board finding that we only need a majority vote to take out of stabilization? Typically, it's majority put it in and 2/3 to take it out. Is that my misunderstanding? Did something change?
That may be an oversight.
I don't think we updated it.
Good catch.
You caught, good catch, it's wrong.
Okay,
Good catch. That was a free cash transfer before, and that's why it was majority.
okay.
Thank you for that.
And we should make a decision on Article 6 if we're going to endorse these, on whether or not we're going to. I think there's 2 open items. Are you okay if the split changes, the total's the total? And then are we endorsing taking whatever portion is the wastewater enterprise out of wastewater, retained earnings, or do you want to leave it from free cash?
I would be comfortable taking it out of the wastewater. I'm just gonna look down the line at the rest of you guys.
I would be as well.
Yeah, it seems like that would be more accurate to what the expense is for. And one other comment also. For the few people who are not watching us, we'll probably have to explain this again. But for decades, literally, I've been against appointing people that could be elected. I want people to elect whoever they want. But things have changed. The times, and everybody knows, times are so much more technical than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And if there are local people who want to apply to be a treasurer, if they vote to have it appointed, they can apply. And the best candidate was who will be hired. So they have an opportunity. But many times in small communities, there just are not people with the knowledge of how to do these technical jobs. So you move to, gee, we really ought to appoint somebody. It's not a place for on-the-job training. It's millions and millions of dollars investments and a whole variety of technical stuff. So over the decades, literally, I've changed my mind on this position. It's why, it's not because we want to hire some friend of ours. It's just, somebody's going to say that, so let's get it out there. That's not the case at all.
Thank you. Is the board in favor of the retained earnings for the health insurance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if finance and capital would like to endorse the warrant as a whole, or some articles thereof right now, it's the warrant as we saw it, plus the treasurer article with the statutory language, amending to 2/3 for the Article 5, amending Article 6 to take whatever split portion of wastewater out of wastewater retained earnings. And striking the last article, which would be replaced with the treasurer one, the school committee one, school representation one.
So
I'd move that the finance committee recommend what you just said.
As amended.
I was gonna do more than that.
is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? So it's a unanimous vote.
Capital planning.
I make a motion that we recommend Articles 2, 3, 4, and 7 for capital. Any second?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Okay. Was capital recommending the treasurer article or leaving not, or not
It wasn't
weighing
one of
in?
the ones that we mentioned, no.
Correct. No, I'm asking, is it one that you wanted to recommend? That's what I'm asking. I know it was one that you didn't list because it's the new Article 9, Article 8, all right? Is that what I'm looking at?
It's not really a capital article, is it?
They manage all the capital money. I'm just asking. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm asking the question.
I don't know, it doesn't feel like a capital article to me, but.
I feel like it's more of a finance
Yeah.
committee
Oh,
rather than a
that's fine.
capital.
I would
All
agree.
right. That's good. Does that get you what you need, Brian? Am I missing anything
No, I will make all of these changes.
on the STM? Okay. Do we want to vote it as well, so it's ready to sign? Because our next meeting is a little ways out. And I think the team would like a little more time to get it out, if possible.
Yeah. No, I'm just, I'll make a motion. I'm just trying to. So I will make a motion that we approve the special town meeting warrant with the proposed amendments in Articles 5. That one.
Yep, 6. And 9.
6 for the portion to be taken out of the general the stabilization account, and the addition of the last article to appoint the treasurer's position. Did I miss anything?
I think it's from retained earnings, not stabilization. Just
I'm
could
sorry.
be- That's okay, I just want to make sure for the
Came
vote.
out, yeah, just so it came out of my mouth. Yes, retained earnings for the purpose of.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So once that's drafted, Brian will let us know, it'll be ready for signature, or once
Okay.
it's finalized, the amendments. And the last item that I was already ready for, the review of the report regarding the former International Paper Mill site. I believe last meeting we had said we would return to it once we had some updates from Time Bond on costs and such. We don't have those yet, so
Oh, yeah.
we left it on there by mistake, so we'll pass over it unless there's any questions related to it before we do. Good. Okay. I believe that was it for joint business. The only thing I will just add before you all go and for the public, et cetera, 2 items. The public comment session for the hazard mitigation plan is going to be Wednesday, February 11th at 6 p.m. here. If anyone would like to come and review it, comment, questions about it. The second item is a draft design proposal for the Swamp Road Bridge. We finally have. If you guys want copies of it, we can get to you. And we are planning an information session for that on, did you get confirmation?
We're looking at March 18th.
March 18th. Likely here.
Correct.
And do we have a time yet?
It'd likely be 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay.
To Wednesday.
So 6 o'clock. And so that would be to look at the preliminary recommended design from the engineering firm
Right.
that MassDOT assigned with the grant that we have for that portion. So the first session, we're going to have obviously more discussion with the board and, continue, but it would be a good time to get feedback from everyone.
Yeah, if I could get forwarded to FinCom and Capital, that'd be great.
The draft plan?
Yeah, that'd be
Yep.
awesome.
Okay.
It's
not a
only-
lot.
It's an initial schematic, so it's not particularly exciting, but it does show you the proposed alignments and widths and measurements and things like that.
Starting point.
Absolutely.
More than we had yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. That's what I had for informational stuff. Want to make everybody aware, so if they wanted to attend or more interested in them. With that, motion to adjourn the joint meeting, continue the board meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. All right, back to the top. Review of surplus equipment requests, Senior Services Department, ice machine, third read.
No concerns.
I have no concern. Make a motion to approve the disposal of the mini ice machine, not functioning with no value. Recommended for resale or disposal, dated February 9th, 2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review of the draft environmentally preferable purchasing EPP plan policy. EPP policy, third read.
I was going to attempt to make some amendments to that, so if you don't mind carrying it for one
Pass.
final read.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll just pass over it and put a third read on next meeting.
Okay.
Review of the Museum Committee Standard Procedures Policy, second read. Any discussion?
No concerns?
None.
We'll carry for next meeting.
Okay.
The donation form for the Museum Committee, second read.
Just that the third line, still, first word in the third line still references selectmen instead of select board.
We'll get all of that revised for your next reading.
Okay. Carry for next read, for next meeting. We pass over the review of the report for the former IP mill site. Review of the fire equipment grant application. All right, Chief. Doing okay. I wish it wasn't 9:04, but we're doing all right. Thank you for hanging out for it.
Oh, no problem. It was interesting. So I applied, once again, there was a 1-year equipment grant through Department of Fire Services. There was a tight deadline. I submitted it, and then Brian kindly reminded me that the select board is the appointing authority on that. DFS has actually changed the grant system, so prior years, we've always had to go through the whole rigmarole with the castle and get it signed 15 different ways. They're allowed to keep it on file now, which is a bonus, makes it easier, but So I'm here just to let you guys know that, I mean, I can pull it if you guys don't agree with it, but I did submit a grant for $10,300 for some additional stabilization equipment for vehicle accidents, mostly for heavier trucks and industrial equipment, i.e. the paper mill, you know, in the event we have that. And then some, there was one battery operated impact hammer drill, the bigger ones, you know, that fit in that rescue tool category.
10,200?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just to make sure it was accurate. Yeah, I mean, in the future, if you know they're coming, because they know sometimes these have tight timelines to get approval for submission, we could also just put it on ahead of time and say, expect it's coming, you know, this is the plan, so that we can get you authorization.
Yeah, this one was
earlier.
weird. They dropped it. I mean, he had talked about it. They were hoping they were gonna get it funded, the marshal, the fire marshal, and,
Okay.
it just popped up. There's a tight deadline, so, I mean, that was kind of, there was a whole laundry list of different stuff we could pick from. But all the funds have to be spent and in hand by June 31st. No, there'll be no extensions on this grant.
Questions?
I have no concerns, Chief. It seems absolutely something that should be required and something we need, so.
Was hoping you'd say that, plus free money's free money, so, well, it's
Right.
not always free. It comes out of tax money somehow.
I was gonna say, I think Dan put it well tonight when it's tax money that's coming back to us instead of.
We get our money back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice when we get some of our stuff back.
Absolutely. I'll make a motion to authorize Chief Phil Wonka to apply for the FY26 Firefighter Safety Equipment Grant Program for the amount of $10,200.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions of me while I'm here?
Not at the moment. Review and issuance of the ninth water commitment for FY26.
No concerns. Make a motion, we accept the ninth water commitment in the amount of $89.26.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Review and approval of the treasury warrant.
It's right to your side.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 16th payroll warrant in the total amount of $239,076.32.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion that we approve the 16th payroll benefits warrant in the aggregate amount of $39,887.30.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I covered the announcement items. So with that, did I miss any?
Nope, you got them all.
All right, thank you. I missed one last time, so.
Nope, we got them all this time.
Oh, and just FYI, I guess because of that, so the vacancy in the police department, so we proceeded with advertisement. Somehow we all missed that, we skipped it over last meeting, so I went ahead and authorized posting for it.
Yep.
If you had any concerns, we can bring it back to review, but I think we've done it a lot recently, so. And then we can bring the recommendation for the makeup of the screening committee to the next meeting. I've talked to Chief about it already, so.
Got it.
We'll put
Perfect.
that on for the next meeting.
You got it.
Thank you. So with that, I'll move that we go into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health, rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. And then following, move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares, which I do so declare. New England Benevolent Police Association, Local 121 Police Unit. And then move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and contract negotiations with non-union personnel regarding the fire chief. And then move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and contract negotiations with non-union personnel regarding the chief of police. We will not return to regular session. Is there a second?
So moved.
All in favor? Roll call.
Selectman Moyne,
Aye.
Chairman Smith,
Aye.
Selectman Denver,
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.